The transport ship moved slowly across the dark space as it approached Starbase Helion 5. Inside the ship, many young recruits sat in silence, each one thinking about the training ahead. Among them sat a small human girl named Lyra Mason. She stayed near the window, her hands resting on her lap, her eyes calm and distant. She looked like someone who did not want attention, someone who preferred to blend into the background. Most of the recruits barely noticed her. Lyra was used to that. Throughout her life, people always thought she was quiet, weak, or unsure of herself. She never corrected them. She preferred peace, silence, and space to think. Her clothes were plain, her posture relaxed, and she never tried to prove anything to anyone. Her long dark hair fell to her shoulders, hiding the back of her neck where a strange mark rested, a mark shaped like a curled dragon, glowing faintly only when she touched certain emotions. She kept it covered at all times. When the ship finally docked, the recruits stood up and walked toward the exit. Tall alien species led the group, their strong figures moving with confidence. The Shalvok warriors, known for their thick armor-like skin, walked with pride. Behind them moved the Cathari, thin but incredibly fast creatures with silver eyes that reflected every movement. Even the Vern soldiers, towering and broad-shouldered, seemed excited about the training. Lyra followed silently behind them. No one bothered to ask her name, and she did not mind. As they stepped into the wide metallic hall of Helion 5, bright lights reflected off the polished floors. Screens above displayed training schedules, emergency codes, and maps. Officers shouted orders, machines hummed, and recruits hurried in every direction. The moment Instructor Varek appeared, everyone became quiet. Varek was a large Shalvok male with dark bronze skin and sharp eyes. He scanned the group and frowned at the mix of species in front of him. His gaze barely paused on Lyra. "You are new recruits," he said with a deep, rumbling voice. "You come here to learn discipline, combat skills, and teamwork. Some of you will excel. Some of you will fail. But all of you will be tested." Lyra listened quietly. She always listened. Varek began assigning groups, pairing cadets from different species. When he finally reached her, he did not even check his device. "You, human," he said, waving his hand. "Group D." She nodded and stepped aside. Group D gathered near the lower training hall. 4 alien cadets stood there already, each one glancing at her with mild confusion. One of them, a Shalvok named Dravik, raised a brow. "This is our 5th?" he asked, sounding surprised. "A small human?" Lyra remained quiet. Another cadet, a Cathari girl named Sira, studied Lyra with faint amusement. "She looks like she cannot carry half the basic gear," Sira whispered. Dravik chuckled. "Maybe she is here to take notes." Lyra said nothing. She simply took her place beside them. Dravik expected her to react, but she gave him no expression, no anger, no fear. Soon their first training session began. The hall was wide, filled with practice weapons and energy fields. Walls shifted to form obstacles. The recruits watched as Varek stepped forward. "You will begin with basic combat trials. I want to see your movement, your strength, and your reflexes. No advanced weapons. Only training rods." Dravik picked up a rod and swung it with enthusiasm. Sira twirled her own with smooth grace. When Lyra picked one up, it looked almost too large in her hands. Some recruits smirked. Their turns came one by one. Dravik fought first, striking the drone target with loud, impressive blows. Sparks flew everywhere. The instructor nodded in approval. Then came Sira. Her movements were fast and elegant. She sliced the air cleanly and dodged the drone's counters with ease. When it was Lyra's turn, the hall became unusually quiet. She stepped onto the platform, holding the rod loosely at her side. The drone activated and moved toward her. Instead of attacking, she stepped back, letting the drone swing first. Her movements were slow, almost hesitant. Dravik snorted. "She's scared." Lyra dodged again, still not striking. She watched the drone carefully, her eyes studying every motion. To her, fighting too hard too soon felt dangerous, not for her but for others. She knew what rested inside her. She knew what could happen if she allowed her mark to ignite, but everyone else only saw a girl avoiding the fight. Varek crossed his arms with disappointment. You must strike, human. Do not waste time. Lyra nodded softly and finally lifted the rod. She swung it lightly at the drone, just enough for the sensor to register a hit. The drone recoiled, but the strike was far weaker than the others. Dravik leaned to Sira. I told you. Fragile worldling. When the session ended, most recruits left the hall talking loudly about their own performance. Lyra walked quietly behind them, her steps slow and thoughtful. Varek made notes on his device and did not even glance at her. In the hallway, Dravik blocked her path. Human, he said, tapping the training rod against his palm. Do you plan to fight like that every time? Hiding and dodging? Lyra met his eyes calmly. I was being careful. Dravik laughed. Careful? You mean scared? Sira joined him. Maybe humans fight differently on your soft worlds. Lyra only gave a small shrug. Dravik stepped closer, clearly expecting her to back away. But she didn't. She simply looked at him with the same calm expression she always wore. Say something, Dravik ordered. Lyra replied with a steady, quiet voice. There is nothing I need to say? He frowned, annoyed. You think staying silent makes you strong? No, she said. It helps me stay in control. Dravik did not understand what she meant, and he thought she was pretending to sound wise. He shook his head and walked away, muttering under his breath. After a long day of training, Lyra returned to her room. It was small but clean. She sat on the edge of the bed and slowly pulled down the collar of her uniform. The dragon-shaped mark on her upper back glowed faintly in the dim light. She touched it gently. You were quiet today, she whispered to herself. The mark pulsed once, responding to her thoughts. She closed her eyes, remembering the warnings she grew up with. Humans with marks like hers, the Drakesow, were rare and most never awakened their power. When they did, they often became targets. Organizations, governments, even alien factions wanted to study them, use them, control them. That was why she trained herself to stay calm. That was why she avoided anger. That was why she fought carefully. She did not want to ignite Dot as she rested. The lights in her room dimmed automatically. Outside her small window, the stars stretched endlessly. She wondered how long she could keep her secret hidden here. The next morning, alarms echoed across the entire station. Lyra jumped to her feet and ran into the hall with the other cadets. Officers hurried past with worried expressions. Emergency lights flashed red. What's happening? Sira asked, her voice tense. Dravik looked at the ceiling as the alarm repeated. This is not a drill. A nearby officer shouted, All units report to holding areas. Unknown fleet approaching. Prepare for lockdown. Lyra felt a cold shiver run down her spine. She had never heard of an unknown fleet. Coming this close to Helion 5, the cadets rushed through the halls as the lights flickered. The ground shook once as something hit the outer shields. Move! Varek shouted as he ran past them. We are under attack. The recruits hurried into the assigned wing, but before the heavy doors could close, the station shook again. Metal groaned. The lights dimmed. Lyra felt a strange, sharp sensation on her back. Her mark pulsed faster. Dravik looked toward the sealed door and then at Lyra. Do not fall behind, human. But Lyra was not worried about herself. She stared at the ceiling, sensing something powerful approaching. Something wrong. Something hungry. A sudden blast struck the wall behind them, throwing dust and light everywhere. Lyra stumbled but caught herself quickly. Dravik swore loudly. What was that? Sira's voice trembled. Something breached the outer hull. Before they could react, part of the wall cracked open. Strange mechanical shapes pushed through the metal, their glowing eyes scanning the room. They moved like shadows with sharp limbs, and their bodies hummed with dark energy. Lyra felt her heart pound. Her mark burned hotter, brighter. She took a slow breath. Not yet, but the creatures kept coming. Dravik's weapon sparked uselessly as he tried to activate it. Sira stepped back, fear crossing her face. The cadets were trapped between a sealed door and the creatures. Lyra's mind raced. She stepped forward. Move behind me, she whispered. The others stared at her in confusion. But the glow under her uniform grew brighter, and her mark, hidden all this time. slowly began to awaken. The hall shook again as the strange creatures forced their way through the broken wall. Dust filled the air, and sparks fell from the damaged wires above. The emergency lights flickered weakly, painting everything in a deep red glow. Lyra stood at the front of the frightened group, her breath slow and steady while the others panicked behind her. She had never planned to reveal her mark so soon. She had hoped to keep her secret for months, maybe years. But the creatures looked dangerous, far stronger than anything the cadets had been trained to face. Dravik tried to activate his weapon again, but it stayed silent. "They are absorbing the energy," he said in disbelief. "This is impossible." Sira stepped closer to Lyra. "What do we do? We are trapped." Lyra looked at the advancing figures. Their eyes glowed blue, and their limbs moved with a strange, unnatural rhythm. They were not normal machines. They felt alive, hungry, and searching. Lyra could sense their energy, and it was unlike anything she had felt before. It was cold and heavy, like the air before a storm. "Move back," Lyra said again, her voice soft but firm. Dravik stared at her. "You cannot fight them alone." She did not answer him. Instead, she took another step forward. The heat on her back rose sharply, like a flame pressed against her skin. She could feel the dragon mark awakening, responding to the threat. She placed her hand over the hidden mark, pressing lightly as if trying to calm it. "Not yet," she told herself again, but the creatures were already picking up speed. Their bodies clicking and shifting as they prepared to strike. The first one lunged at Lyra, moved so fast that the others barely saw it. She stepped aside, grabbed the creature's metal arm, and pushed it into the ground with surprising strength. The metal cracked under her touch. The cadets gasped. "How did she—" Dravik began, but the next creature attacked. This time, Lyra spun around it and struck its chest with her palm. A faint light flashed from her hand, and the creature flew backward, smashing into the broken wall. Sira's eyes widened. "She is not normal." Dravik tightened his jaw. "Human, what are you hiding?" Lyra didn't respond. She stepped between the creatures and her group again. The heat inside her kept rising, urging her to release it, telling her she was stronger than she allowed herself to be. She tried to keep it contained, but the creatures were pushing her limits. 3 more came at once. Their claws slashed through the air. And Lyra dodged each attack with smooth movements, but she was forced back toward her group. She could not keep holding back. One of the claws grazed her arm, tearing the sleeve of her uniform. The glowing mark beneath became visible for the first time. Everyone froze. The dragon-shaped mark burned with bright red light, pulsing like a heartbeat. It was impossible to ignore. Dravik's mouth fell open. "What is that?" Lyra took a trembling breath. "Stay behind me." Another creature lunged, its jaws opening wide. Lyra raised her arm, and the mark flared brighter. A burst of red energy shot out, hitting the creature directly. The energy wave knocked it across the hall, and it fell in pieces. Sira stepped backward in fear and awe. "She has energy powers. Humans do not have that." Dravik lowered his voice, suddenly unsure. "She is not like other humans." The creatures paused, their glowing eyes shifting as if they recognized the energy coming from Lyra. They adjusted their stance, preparing for a stronger attack. Lyra felt the heat rise again, stronger than before. It wanted to escape. It wanted to burn, but she fought to stay in control. She could not unleash everything here. If she did, she might destroy more than just the creatures. She might harm the cadets too. The wall behind the creatures burst open again, this time with a louder crash. More of them crawled through the opening. There were too many. Even with her power, she could not fight them all alone. Lyra quickly scanned the hall. There was an emergency side corridor that led toward the maintenance deck. If she could get the others there, they might find a safer place. "We cannot stay here," she said. "Follow me." Dravik hesitated. "But the creatures move!" She shouted, her voice stronger than ever. The urgency in her tone finally pushed them into action. The cadets ran behind her as she charged toward the corridor. A creature jumped in front of her, blocking the path. She grabbed its head and slammed it into the floor, the mark on her back glowing brighter with each movement. The others followed her through the narrow corridor, stumbling over broken pipes and fallen panels. The entire station shook again, and a muffled explosion echoed from somewhere above them. "The attack is spreading fast," Sira said breathlessly. "We must reach the command deck," Dravik replied. "They need to know we have been breached." Lyra glanced back at them. "The command deck is too far. We go to the maintenance level first." Another explosion threw them forward as the lights flickered on and off. Lyra stayed in front, clearing the path and knocking away the smaller drones that crawled through the vents. Each time her mark burned hotter, threatening to fully awaken. Dravik watched her carefully. He still did not understand her, but he could see her strength. Every movement she made was controlled, but powerful. Every strike had purpose. She was not fighting like a scared human. She was fighting like someone trained for danger and someone hiding something far greater. When they finally reached the maintenance deck, the doors were partly open and the room inside was filled with smoke. Sparks fell from the ceiling. Machines were damaged and the emergency lights glowed faintly. "Check for movement," Lyra said. Sira scanned the area. "It looks clear." Suddenly, a loud crash came from the far side of the deck. A large creature broke through the metal wall, its body twice the size of the smaller ones. Its eyes glowed brighter, and its limbs hummed with stronger energy. Dravik's voice tightened. "That one is different." The creature let out a deep mechanical growl and charged forward. Lyra stepped in front again. Dravik grabbed her arm. "Human, stop. You cannot fight that alone." Lyra looked at him with calm but firm eyes. "I am the only one who can." She pulled free and walked toward the creature. Her steps were slow but confident. The mark on her back glowed through the torn fabric, bright enough to illuminate the smoke around her. The creature swung its large arm at her. She ducked under it with perfect timing and hit its chest with both hands. The force sent a blast of red energy, pushing the creature back, but not enough to stop it. It roared and swung again. This time, the attack grazed her side and she stumbled. Dravik shouted, "Lyra!" Lyra steadied herself, breathing hard. The heat on her back reached its limit. Her vision blurred for a moment. She could not keep holding back. If she did, they would all die. She closed her eyes, let it awaken. Her mark flared like fire, shooting bright red light across the room. The dragon shape glowed with a burning intensity. Energy rushed through her body, filling her with strength she tried her whole life to control. The creature attacked again, but this time Lyra caught its arm mid-swing. Her fingers dug into the metal, bending it like soft clay. The creature struggled, but she held it in place. Then, with one final burst of power, she released the energy building inside her. A wave of red light exploded outward. The creature was thrown across the deck, crashing into the far wall with enough force to shatter it. Its body broke apart, and pieces fell to the ground. The cadets stared in stunned silence. Lyra stood in the center of the deck, breathing heavily, the glow slowly fading from her mark. Smoke drifted around her like mist. Sira took a careful step forward. "What are you?" Lyra looked at her group, her expression calm but tired. "I am human." Dravik shook his head slowly. "Humans do not carry the power of fire. They do not break metal creatures with their hands." Lyra placed her hand over her mark again. "I did not choose this, but I will use it to protect all of you." The station shook again, harder this time. A new alarm rang out above them. "We are not safe here," Dravik said. "More creatures will come." Lyra nodded. "Then we keep moving." We reached the command deck. "And we fight together? For the first time?" The others looked at her not with doubt or irritation, but with trust. She stepped into the hallway again, ready to face whatever waited ahead, and her mark, now half awakened, glowed like a silent promise of the power yet to come. The hallway outside the maintenance deck was filled with smoke and fading sparks. The emergency lights flickered weakly along the ceiling, casting a dark red glow across the metal walls. Lyra stepped out first, her breath steady, even though her body still trembled from the burst of energy she had released moments earlier. The dragon mark on her back continued to pulse faintly, as if it was watching the world around her. Dravik, Sira, and the other cadets followed her, each one walking with a mixture of fear, awe, and trust. A few minutes ago, they had seen something they never expected from a quiet human girl. They had watched her take down a monster twice her size. They had watched her glow with a power that made even the metal creatures hesitate. Dravik, who had mocked her the most, now walked behind her silently. His eyes were fixed on her small figure, trying to understand how someone so quiet could hold something so powerful. Lyra looked down the dark corridor. "We must move fast. The creatures will not stop." Sira nodded quickly. "They are spreading through the entire station. The alarms from the upper decks are getting louder." A loud tremor shook the floor under them, almost knocking them off balance. Dust fell from the ceiling and the metal walls creaked under the pressure. Dravik steadied himself. If the attackers break into the reactor area, the whole station could fall. "We need to reach the command deck before that happens." Lyra glanced at him. "Then we go now." They started running down the corridor. Every sound echoed behind them, the distant explosions, the low hum of machines failing, the sharp footsteps of the creatures moving through the vents. Lyra led the group with quick, focused steps. She used every sense she had, every small vibration, every shift in the air, to guide the group around danger. At one intersection, she stopped suddenly and raised her hand. The others froze behind her. "What is it?" Sira whispered. Lyra listened carefully. There was a strange clicking sound echoing from the left corridor. She recognized it. The creatures used that pattern when they prepared to ambush. "Not this way," she said. "We go right." Dravik frowned. "How do you know?" She placed her hand lightly on the wall. "I can feel them." He did not argue. Not anymore. They moved down the right hallway. The walls were cracked and the lights barely worked. They'd passed several rooms filled with fallen equipment and broken panels. A few small drones crawled on the floor, but Lyra crushed them quickly with sharp, precise strikes. The dragon mark glowed a little brighter with every fight. The group reached a wide chamber where the ceiling had collapsed in the center. Metal beams hung down like broken bones. The only path across was narrow and unstable. "We need to cross," Lyra said. Dravik looked at the gap. "It looks dangerous." "The floor could give way." Lyra stepped forward carefully. "I will go first." "If the structure holds, you follow." She placed her weight on the thin path. The metal groaned but stayed firm. She moved slowly, her arms spreading for balance. When she reached the other side, she nodded back at them. Sira went next, then the others. Dravik crossed last. Halfway across, the metal under his foot cracked loudly. "Wait!" Lyra shouted. Dravik froze, his eyes wide. The metal piece began to bend under his weight. Without thinking, Lyra sprinted forward. She grabbed his arm just as the floor gave way beneath him. Dravik slipped, but Lyra pulled with sudden strength, dragging him to safety. He lay on the floor, breathing hard. "You saved me. Again." Lyra offered her hand to help him up. "We must look after each other now." Dravik stared at her for a long moment. "I misjudged you completely." Lyra looked away, her expression calm. "Many do." They continued forward. The deeper they went into the station, the more damaged it became. The walls were melted in places, as if something had burned straight through them. The air felt heavy with the strange energy of the creatures. At last, they reached a large blast door leading toward the command deck. But just as Dravik tried to open it, the door refused to move. "It's locked," he said. "System error. We need power to open it." Lyra stepped back and looked around. Then she spotted a broken control panel a few steps away. The wiring was exposed, sparks jumping out every few seconds. "Can you fix it?" Sira asked Dravik. He shook his head. "It is too damaged. We need a power surge strong enough to override the lock." Lyra looked at her hand. The mark on her back pulsed again, reacting to her thoughts. "I can try," she said quietly. Sira and Dravik exchanged looks. "Your power, can it be controlled enough for this?" Lyra touched the control panel lightly. The metal felt cold under her fingers. She closed her eyes and breathed slowly, trying to calm the burning energy inside her. She pressed her palm against the panel. The dragon mark flared, sending a controlled pulse of energy through her arm. A spark jumped from her hand into the wires. The lights around the door flickered, then glowed brighter. The blast door unlocked. Dravik stared at her. "You can control it like that?" "Sometimes," Lyra said softly. They entered the next hallway, but they were not prepared for what they saw. The command deck was visible at the far end, but the entire corridor between them and the deck was filled with creatures. Dozens of them. Their glowing eyes turned toward the group as soon as the blast door opened. Sir gasped. "There are too many." Dravik lifted a broken metal pipe as if preparing to fight. "We cannot go back. This is our only way." Lyra stepped forward. The creatures clicked in unison and began to move toward them. She looked over her shoulder. "Stay close to the walls. When I move, you run behind me. Do not stop." Dravik hesitated. "Lyra, these things will tear you apart." Lyra met his eyes. "I will not let that happen. Now, move when I say." The heat inside her body grew intense, like fire spreading through her veins. She took a slow breath and allowed the power to rise higher than before. But not fully unleashed. The dragon mark blazed. The closest creature lunged. Lyra struck it with a burst of red energy that exploded across the corridor, sending several creatures sprawling. The cadets ran behind her as she pushed forward, striking down anything that came near them, but there were too many. One creature jumped from the ceiling. Lyra caught it midair and threw it into the wall. Another grabbed her arm, and she tore free with a burst of strength that sent sparks flying. Her breaths grew heavier. The heat inside her burned painfully. Her vision blurred for a moment. She was pushing too hard. Dravik shouted from behind her. "Lyra, fall back." "There are more ahead?" But she did not stop. She kept pushing forward, clearing a path with every strike. The creatures kept coming, their numbers endless. At the far end of the hall, a massive figure appeared, bigger than any they had seen before. Its metal body was covered in spikes, and its glowing eyes burned like fire. Syrah's voice trembled. "What is that?" Lyra knew. "It is their leader." The creature roared and charged. Lyra stepped forward to meet it, her mark blazing so brightly that the hallway glowed red. The leader swung a massive claw, and Lyra blocked it with both hands. The force pushed her back several steps, but she did not fall. She pushed back with everything she had. Energy exploded between them, lighting up the hall like a red storm. Dravik and Syrah watched in shock as Lyra fought the leader alone. Her strength was incredible, but her movements were slowing. Her breaths grew shaky. She was reaching her limit. The leader lifted her off the ground and threw her against the wall. She hit the metal hard and fell to her knees. "Lyra!" Syrah screamed. Lyra struggled to stand. The mark burned painfully, begging her to unleash its full power, but if she did, she might lose control. The leader charged again. Lyra stood. Trembling but determined, she raised her hand, and this time she did not hold back. The dragon mark erupted with blazing light. Brighter than anything before, a powerful wave of energy burst from her body, tearing through the leader, smashing it into pieces, and clearing the entire hall. The light faded. Lyra collapsed to the ground. Breathing hard, Syrah and Dravik ran to her side. Her voice was weak, but steady. "The path is clear. Go." The night on Zenthra Prime felt heavier than usual as Lyra walked back toward the human quarters. The air tasted of metal and distant storms, and the glowing towers of the alien city hummed like restless creatures. She sensed the tension spreading across the streets, moving from patrol to patrol like a silent whisper of danger. Something was changing. Something was watching. She moved quietly, her steps soft but steady. Even without trying, her mind kept replaying what happened at the arena. The mark on her back had ignited, burning like a living flame. The dragons carved into her skin had glowed brighter than she had ever felt before. She remembered the fear in the alien soldiers' faces when they saw it. She remembered the shock, the confusion, the way the commanders stared at her as if she had become something impossible, and she remembered the silence that followed. Now, as she walked, she sensed someone following her. She turned her head slightly, listening, footsteps, slow, careful, trying not to be noticed. She kept moving. She pretended not to hear it. But her senses sharpened. Her breath slowed. Her mind focused. When she reached the narrow passage between the storage towers, she stopped. She spoke without turning. "You can come out." The footsteps froze. Then a small figure stepped into the faint blue light. It was Myra, the young alien girl who often helped clean the training grounds. Her hands were shaking and her eyes were wide, glowing softly with fear. Lyra. "I needed to talk to you," Myra whispered. Lyra softened her voice. "You were following me?" I had to. "The others told me not to go near you after tonight. They said you were dangerous. They said the mark on your back means something terrible." Lyra sighed. "Do you believe them?" Myra hesitated. "I don't know. But I know you helped me when I dropped the cleaning tools. I know you're kind. I know you're not what they say." Lyra relaxed a little, but the tension in her chest didn't fade. "Then why follow me?" Myra took a step closer. "Because I heard the commanders talking. They plan to move you to the restricted sector tomorrow. They said you're too powerful to be left with the other humans. They want to test you." Lyra felt her stomach tighten. "Test me how?" "I don't know," Myra said, her voice trembling. "But they sounded afraid. Afraid of you. Afraid of your mark. They said something about ancient fear. Something about dragons and lost wars." Lyra closed her eyes. She wasn't ready for this. She never asked for this power. She never wanted it. She barely understood the mark herself. All she knew was that it came from her mother's side, a hidden human lineage that was whispered about but rarely seen. A lineage tied to dragons' ancient beings, so powerful that even alien empires feared their memory. She looked down at Myra. "Thank you for telling me. You should go home now. It's not safe for you to be near me." Myra hesitated, then reached out and touched Lyra's hand. "Be careful." Lyra managed a small smile. "I will." Once the girl left, Lyra continued walking, but her mind was full of heavy thoughts. She didn't know how much longer she could hide. She didn't know what the aliens planned for her, and she didn't know if she could control what lived inside her. She stepped onto the platform. Myra ran to her, grabbing her hand. "Please come back," the girl whispered. Lyra bent down and touched Myra's forehead gently. "I will, I promise." The platform powered on with a deep hum. Lights lit up under her feet. The air around her vibrated. The commander raised his hand. "Ready." Lyra closed her eyes. The dragon mark on her back flared brighter than ever. Launch. A burst of force shot through her, sending her into the sky at incredible speed. The wind burned against her face, but the flame inside her protected her. Higher and higher she rose until the city below looked like a distant memory. She approached the massive ship. Its dark metal surface stretching like a shadow across the sky. The machines inside moved. Sensing her coming, a hatch opened. A large machine stepped out, larger than any she had seen. Its body was covered in ancient symbols. Its eyes glowed silver. "Dragon blood," it said. "Your kind should have vanished long ago." Lyra floated in the air, her body glowing with golden fire. "Maybe," she said softly, "but I'm still here." The machine charged at her. Lyra met it with a burst of fire so bright the sky flashed gold. Their battle shook the air itself. The machine fired beams of sharp silver light, but Lyra blocked them with fire from her hands. She struck its chest, its shoulders, its arms, breaking pieces of metal with every blow. The machine grabbed her throat and pushed her back. "Your fire cannot stop us," it growled. Lyra felt her vision blur. The pressure tightened. The fire inside her flickered. She remembered Myra's face, the soldiers in the plaza. Her father's words, and something inside her erupted. Her mark ignited in full force. Golden flames exploded around her, cracking the machine's grip and burning through its armor. She shouted with all her strength and drove her fist straight. Through the machine's core, a huge burst of light flashed. The machine broke apart. The ship shook violently as its systems began to fail. Lyra fell back, breathing hard. As the ship's metal body cracked open, she let herself fall toward the city below. The golden fire around her softened, turning into gentle light that slowed her fall until she landed softly in the plaza. The crowd stared in silence, then cheers filled the air. Myra ran to her and hugged her tightly. "You came back." Lyra smiled tiredly and hugged her back. "I promised." The commander bowed deeply. "You saved us all." Lyra looked at the sky where the ship burned and disappeared. She felt tired, but the fire inside her had finally found peace. She knew more dangers would come, but she also knew one thing: no one would ever misjudge the human girl with the dragon mark again. She stepped onto the platform. Myra ran to her, grabbing her hand. "Please come back," the girl whispered. Lyra bent down and touched Myra's forehead gently. "I will, I promise." The platform powered on with a deep hum. Lights lit up under her feet. The air around her vibrad. The commander raised his hand. "Ready." Lyra closed her eyes. The dragon mark on her back flared brighter than ever. "Launch!" A burst of force shot through her, sending her into the sky at incredible speed. The wind burned against her face, but the flame inside her protected her. Higher and higher she rose until the city below looked like a distant memory. She approached the massive ship, its dark metal surface stretching like a shadow across the sky. The machines inside moved. Sensing her coming, a hatch opened. A large machine stepped out, larger than any she had seen. Its body was covered in ancient symbols. Its eyes glowed silver. "Dragon blood," it said. "Your kind should have vanished long ago." Lyra floated in the air, her body glowing with golden fire. "Maybe," she said softly, "but I'm still here." The machine charged at her. Lyra met it with a burst of fire so bright the sky flashed gold. Their battle shook the air itself. The machine fired beams of sharp silver light, but Lyra blocked them with fire from her hands. She struck its chest, its shoulders, its arms, breaking pieces of metal with every blow. The machine grabbed her throat and pushed her back. "Your fire cannot stop us," it growled. Lyra felt her vision blur. The pressure tightened. The fire inside her flickered. She remembered Myra's face, the soldiers in the plaza. Her father's words, and something inside her erupted. Her mark ignited in full force. Golden flames exploded around her, cracking the machine's grip and burning through its armor. She shouted with all her strength and drove her fist straight. Through the machine's core, a huge burst of light flashed. The machine broke apart. The ship shook violently as its systems began to fail. Lyra fell back, breathing hard. As the ship's metal body cracked open, she let herself fall toward the city below. The golden fire around her softened, turning into gentle light that slowed her fall until she landed softly in the plaza. The crowd stared in silence, then cheers filled the air. Myra ran to her and hugged her tightly. "You came back?" Lyra smiled tiredly and hugged her back. "I promised." The commander bowed deeply. "You saved us all." Lyra looked at the sky where the ship burned and disappeared. She felt tired, but the fire inside her had finally found peace. She knew more dangers would come, but she also knew one thing: no one would ever misjudge the human girl with the dragon mark again.